Give me a quick second here before we get started. Just a quick second. There's a way to like share the URL here, but I don't remember how to do that. So we're gonna go ahead and go to my YouTube channel here real quick. Just like I put the link in my Discord. If you guys haven't joined my Discord link should be below. That one should be the one that is working. You guys can go ahead and do that real quick while I get situated. Hopefully this will be a lot faster next time. Why am I so bright? Give me a quick second here. Don't mind that thing at the top left. That just lets me know the timestamps. So that way, when I upload it, you guys are able to just kind of click around. Don't have to see all this extra nonsense. Okay, we should be good to go. Is that the link? Let me just make sure. I don't know why it's on loop. Let me see if I can get another link real quick. Share, copy. Post that there. Share with my Twitter. Just to make sure everybody knows. All right, let's get going. I do have that copy paste. Let me just make sure it works. Boom, perfect. All right, let me put this on my Discord. Boom. All right, perfect. Now, we're gonna go ahead and share my screen. So I didn't want to share my screen at the start because I didn't want y'all singing nothing. Y'all know I got nudes. I'm sorry. Okay, let me go ahead and... Okay, enough jokes. I'm stupid. All right, let's go ahead and share my screen here. So pretty much what we're going to do today is we are going to talk about each role. What do they do? You know, what's their jobs? Feel free to ask any questions in the chat. I will be reading the chat. For those of you that are watching later and you guys aren't watching it now, there will be timestamps below. You guys can just hop around to your role and whatnot. We're probably going to spend about 15-ish minutes per each role, and then we'll conclude with questions overall. If you guys have questions during, please feel free to ask. At the top right, as I said before, it's going to say intro. I could actually put it down here because it's kind of white up there. After the intro, we're going to make sure it says top, and then we're going to go through each role. That's going to help me better do timestamps for the video, but also it helps let everybody know what role we're talking about at the current time. Also, this doc will be in the description below. Can I do that? Maybe I'll have to like put a link to then download the doc. Or if you guys want, I could put it in my Discord. Maybe I can have like a law class document. Feel free to join my Discord. Link description below. We could do that up there. But I'll give you guys this document so you guys can just kind of read it on your own time if you guys need the notes and stuff like that there. Okay, so first things first, we're going to talk about just kind of League of Legends in a general sense here. You know, when we talk about League and the fact that they have 5 roles, both teams do have 5 roles. You have top, you have jungle, you have mid, you have ADC, and you have support. all roles technically function differently when it comes to early game, mid game, and then late game. So do know you have to master not just the laning phase, but also the mid game, which is then transition from early to mid game. And then you have to master the late game, which is like team fights, stuff like that. And that is also champ specific as well. But we'll be reaching that topic later, don't worry. But let's just stick with the basics here, which is just knowing that each player has in each role that they have to fulfill. The better you fulfill that role, especially better than your counterpart, the easier it is to win your games, whether it be normals, flex, solo queue, whatever you play. Even Wild Rift, again, it will be easier to fulfill. The easier it is to fulfill the role, the easier it is to gain your LP. That's why it's important to learn your role. So let's go ahead and talk about top. So let's go ahead and change this here. We're gonna change this to top, just so that everybody knows what we're talking about, and just so that I know to hop around in the video when I timestamp, as I said before. So top lane is a fun lane. We're not going to discuss the type of top laners, the type of mid laners, the type of junglers, the type of ADCs, the type of supports. We'll do that in another video. I think it's going to be the next class after this one. We'll talk about like the champion types, like control mages or like hyper carries, you know, stuff like that. We'll get into more detail, but we just kind of want to stick to the basic. So the basics of top lane, you generally have 3 types of champions. You have either the, so I'll just actually add this as a note. So you have tanks, you have fighters / bruisers, and then you have your ranged top laners. So that's pretty much what you're picking from when you have a top lane pick. It's either a tank, a fighter, or a bruiser, or it's a range. It's not really anything else unless the meta just does something weird, but for the most part, you know that's what you're picking when you play top lane. Now, top lane has a few roles that you kind of want to fulfill. So the first thing that we have here when we're talking about top lane is you kind of just are on an island up there. You know, you kind of just have to win your solo lane. So we could just actually add some top laners here. Let's just add, if you guys want to look at this, you guys can see it. It's wicked.gg. I do not take ownership over this stuff at all. And we'll just add a fighter. We'll just say Kled. That's an odd champ, I know, but you know, it is what it is. Let me get rid of these. There we go. All right, so we have Malphite and we have Kled. Malphite would be the tank. Kled would be like the fighter or the bruiser. Now, each job or each of those type of champs have a different job. As the fighter or bruiser, my job would probably be, I want to get kills, I want to get fed, I want to get stronger so that I can carry my game. As far as tank's job, it's more of, I just want to survive so that way I can make it to the team fights. I can make it to that mid game. And so when you do choose these type of champions, that's the kind of role that you're trying to choose from when you're choosing them. So we'll say, for top lane, know what your champion's job will be before laning. So is my job to get kills, play safe, etc. Whatever it may be, your champion should have a specific job that is dealing with kind of that lane. Honestly, all roles kind of have that formula per se. But it's really important as a top laner to kind of know this, because this also then dictates your mid game. And so even as mid game, you got more jobs, right? And so some side jobs that you might have as a top laner, as a mid laner, some side jobs that you might have as a top laner during the mid game would be things like split pushing, right? And so let me show you guys what split pushing would actually look like here. So if we were to say, well, this guy is playing Kled, like we said before, towers are down, they're broken, whatever. They're all hovering over at Dragon for a fight, right? Now, Kled could have TP, but let's just say, for the sake of the matter, Kled doesn't have TP. He took Ignite. Instead of Teleport, he took Ignite, okay? Whereas Malphite as a tank, you generally will have Teleport. I'll try to say teleport more often instead of TP, because some of you guys might not know what TP is. Not toilet paper. So when we talk about this, the fact that this guy can kind of just join in at the fight anytime that he wants to because he has teleport means that Kled has one or two options. This means that either I, as Kled, want to be down there so that way we can just all fight together, or this means that I can split push, of what we just talked about. Split pushing basically just means that you're going to be distracting the enemy. Do not think about split pushing as just breaking down towers, getting inhibs. Like, that's not really the goal of split pushing. And a lot of times you'll climb to a certain rank while split pushing doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because of the simple fact that people in that elo can generally deal with it better. So you have to time your split push better, not with just your team, but also with the enemy team. You know, what are they doing to where that if I distract them enough, my team can kind of get an advantage. So let's just say, as I said before, you know, we have Malphite top, and we know that they're going to do Dragon pretty soon. But we also know that, well, Kled can't actually kill Malphite, right? Malphite's like, well, I'm just going to sit here and hang with you. Now, this is all fine and dandy, but if Malphite is needed for this fight, let's say he's very, very important to this team comp for blue side, and Kled knows this, whereas Kled is not that great of a team fighter, this means that I have a job to do as Kled. I need to keep him here so that way he can't participate in this fight. If we both go to the fight and we both participate in this fight, it's going to be a little bit harder. Why? Because Malphite is more of a team player than Kled is. No matter how strong Kled might be, Malphite is just more useful of a champion than Kled when it comes to the team fights. And remember, tanks are generally useful. Like, they're just better than other champions top lane because they do provide that. When we talk about champs like Ornn, when we talk about champs like Malphite, when we talk about champs like Maokai, I've even seen Taric top, Leona, those aren't really top laners. Poppy is another good one. They just like slip in my mind. Volibear's, all right, he's not really a tank. He's like a fighter. I can't really think about it anymore. Sion is another good one. Like, these type of tanks are generally, they're not good at actually fighting 1v1, but they're amazing at team fighting. And so as a champ that is good at fighting 1v1, but not so good at team fighting, we want to do our best to try to hold this dude here as long as possible. If this guy teleports, we need to make sure that we interrupt his teleport. If this guy starts walking, we need to make sure that we just start hitting this tower. Now, when we talk about split pushing, what makes the difference between the fact that I'm doing this now and my team are getting ready to do Dragon versus, you know, everybody's just kind of doing their own thing? Whatever they're doing, we don't know, because we can't see the enemy. But as red side, we know that our team is like, I don't know, like they're all mid, junglers like bot doing stuff. What's the difference between split pushing when the situation is pretty much like this versus split pushing where we said before where everybody's hovered at Dragon? And we already said that earlier, right? What did we say? We said your job as a split pusher is not to get towers. Your main goal is to force the enemy in a tight spot. When we say force the enemy in a tight spot, what do we mean by that? For instance, we just mean making them make a decision. Hey, you know, do I want to give up this Dragon to kill this Kled because Malphite can't do it by himself? Or do we want to just go ahead and go for this Dragon and let Kled do whatever Kled wants to do? This is why split pushing is so powerful. But like I said before, when it's not timed properly, you actually end up in a disposition. You end up in a position where it's like, well, we don't have anything to fight for. They just all come up and collapse on us. Kled's now dead, and now that Kled is dead, they can all just go to drag, and, you know, there's no problem here. Then as everybody's hovered over Dragon, as you see like this, right? Kled's like, oh, I just died, but Dragon's up. I'm gonna just try to go split push again. The fight takes place as a 5v4. Remember, you know, as a fighter, they generally do not take teleport. Most fighters don't. They'll take Ignite or whatever other spell that they'll take. Whatever. They'll take another spell. This means that, oh, we're done team fighting. Let me recall and just teleport right back to my tower. By the time Kled gets here, because he died before the Dragon, I lose nothing for helping my team. This is why you have to split push properly, so that way even if the person does decide to go, you do get a lot on the other side, right? And you have to keep in mind split pushing is a stalling tactic. It's not a tactic where you just sit in lane and I'm super fed and you know this is gonna end the game faster. It's not. You want to group if everybody's doing all right, just group. Unless you got Baron, then obviously you want to shove out multiple lanes, but that's a different topic in itself. Split pushing generally is to make it so that the enemy team cannot end the game because they're so focused on dealing with you that they can't just straight up end the game. The longer that you can keep that happening, the easier it is for your team to get objectives. The easier it is for your team to go farming up like the jungle, farming lanes, because everybody is so focused on dealing with you. Now let's kind of reverse this back, right? Let's go ahead and go back to whatever. It doesn't really matter where people are. Just work with me here. So let's go back to the same situation. Let's just say I'm the opposite, right? I'm not the split pusher. I'm countering the split pusher. So we're gonna say your job as a tank is to prevent the split pusher from taking towers. Now, sometimes your team is going to need you, and you might have to sack the tower to do whatever you need to do. It's okay, you know, as long as you win the team fight, because you got to think of it this way. Off the top of my head, I really don't know how much that tier 2 tower is. I'm pretty sure it's upwards of like 500, maybe something like that. It's pretty dang expensive. You might have to sack that tower. That's local gold. I'm sorry. You might have to sack that tower for. You know what? Let's just go ahead and pop this in here. So we're gonna just say wiki Brittany Griner. Who's that? Wiki Tower Gold League of Legends. Let's pop that bad boy in there, just so you guys can get a better understanding of how much each of the gold is. Did I pass it? So that's the outer turret. We need to look at the inner turret. So if you guys didn't know, the outer turret's the first tower, the inner turret's the second tower, and then the inhibitor turret is the inhibitor turret. So we want to look at the, see if we can get there. Inner turret. There we go. All right. So the gold is top and bottom is 550. The middle is 300. See, I knew I was close. I just didn't know. So local gold is people that are around the turret will share that gold. Obviously, Kled will get that for himself. The global gold is how much your team will get from the actual turret. So, like I said, you'll probably be sacking this tower. But if you think about it, that is 4 champions that could die, and that's 300 apiece. You never know if there's a bounty, and if there is, it's even better. Plus, you get dragon. All for 1 tower. That's kind of a good sack, especially if you have teleport. Technically, if you have teleport, you could just shove it out a little bit if you can, if he's not bothering you the whole time. Most top laners that shove will either shove it and then like go back or something, or they'll just sit here, in which case you can just have people kill them. And then you can go to dragon. But if they do shove it and go back, you can shove it out as much as possible, start walking over, do the dragon fight, and just teleport back. And you make it so that Kled doesn't get any towers. And on top of that, you guys win that team fight. So now you might be thinking, well, how do I prevent a split pusher from just like straight up ignoring me, right? Because sometimes split pushers can ignore the tank because you don't do any damage and just hit at the tower. Well, there's a way that you can kind of do this. Let me get my little utensil out here. How long have we been talking about top? I said that I only want to talk about it for 15 minutes. Let me see. It's almost 15. All right, so how would we do this? Well, what we would do is we would make it so that there's minions coming down, right? You want to try to hold the minions kind of right here, just out of the tower range. Because if you do that, he can't ignore you. If the tower is going to hit him every time he gets close, and you just do this, like he can't hit the tower, and he can't kill you. He can't straight up kill you. You just walk away. You're a tank. As long as you didn't int your lane. Remember, the job of a tank is to just kind of play safe and make it out. If you can pull that off, you'll be good to go. As long as these champs don't get ahead of you, they can't kill a tank. The fact that armor and magic resist items are cheaper than actual damage items, and they scale harder in terms of what they do, you shouldn't be able to kill anybody. Like no fighter should be able to kill a tank unless you are behind them in terms of like gold and experience and stuff like that. So you would hold the wave right there and pretty much make it so that if he tries to fight you, you just back up and then you walk back in and just keep the wave there. Just hold the wave there. That way, if a fight does break out, you could realistically just kind of back up and go teleport. He has to shove the wave first and then, you know, take the tower. Or you're just holding them until someone just, you know, comes to kill them. And then you can go to dragon. Whatever it need be. But that's how you stop a split pusher. There's a game a while ago that I played Shin. And all I did was this. The Irelia, or it might have been a Riven, kept trying to like split push. And a lot of times, especially in lower elos, players don't know what to do if they can't split push. A lot of times, top laners are ingrained with just sitting in lane doing nothing but sitting in that lane. If they cannot push past you because you're too busy just sitting there like that, we just looking at each other like, what's up? How you doing? How's your day going? You just farming some stuff? Yeah, me too. I'm just holding. Yeah, you know, we chilling. They're not gonna know what to do. They're gonna go crazy. They're gonna be like, what do I do? What do I do? And then they're gonna keep dying, or they're gonna group with their team. And in which case, that's what you want. You want them to group with their team because then you can go over there and help. And like I said, tanks are generally better in 5v5 than split pushers are, or like fighters, or ranged champions are. So keep that in mind. Now, if you're dealing with the ranged champion, usually tanks can just kill them. I'm not going to lie to you. Most tanks can kind of just solo ranged champions up top. Quinn can get soloed by tanks. Teemo can get soloed by tanks. It's very easy. Like I said, as long as they're not ahead of you after laning phase, usually by the time you hit 6, you'll be able to just one-bang them, especially if your jungler comes up. So the ranged top laners aren't really that much of an issue. It's those fighters like Fiora, Kled, Jax, which is, like I said, you hold the wave right there and they can't do anything. You just got to make sure that you're backing up every time they engage on you, and then you just walk back and hold that wave right there so they can't ignore you and they can't kill you. And then you join it with your team whenever you can. All right? So that's pretty much the jobs of a top lane. Now, of course, like I said, you have teleport. Both of you guys can just TP down. But again, the basics of it pretty much is you got 3 types. You got tanks, you got fighters, bruisers, and then you got ranged. And each champion is going to have a different goal, but most of the time tanks want to just play safe and just wait until mid-game so we can start popping off. Fighters, bruisers, and ranged champions generally want to try to snowball, get an edge in lane, try to get you low, try to kill you over and over if they can. And as a tank, your job is to stop that. Now let's just say there's 2 fighters, right? Let's just say how can we change this? Okay, I think I did it right. Nope. Oh yeah, there we go. All right, so let's just say there's 2 fighters. So we'll just do Aatrox, right? Now we're kind of in the same position where it's like both these champs want to do the same thing. Both these champs want to split push. Both these champs want to group, or not split, I'm sorry. Both these champs want to fight and just kind of get a lead. Both these champs want to do the same thing. How do you deal with stuff like that? Well, now we get down to the reason why people call top lane a street fighter type of lane. Because a lot of the times that you're going for trades and fighting, it's really based off of windows. It's based off of, oh, is their guard down? Is their abilities down? Like, when can I go in? Oh, I can hit you with a trade right here, and then I can back off. It's really it's a trade-heavy lane. That's what top lane is when you're dealing with 2 fighters. It's a very, very trade-heavy lane, especially because, you know, both champs are melee most of the time. So it's very, like, aggressive in terms of laning. A little bit more so than mid. So again, this will come down to just you being better than the other top laner. There's no special like remedy. There's no special what you want to do. It's the same thing. You just gotta be better than them at it. You can wait for ganks. You can just straight up beat them if you're better. If your champ counters them, good job. If it doesn't, then you know you gotta play safe for a little bit. But eventually, whichever top laner starts snowballing, they're able to split push. They're able to kill the person in their tower. They're able to, you know, etc., etc., etc. So you always got to keep that in mind when you are playing top. Now, if you choose to play top, again, this is just going to be a role where you're choosing one of those 3 champions. Do you like tanks? Top's for you. Do you like fighters and bruisers? You know, being able to fight in your lane and start snowballing. Top's for you. Do you like split pushing? Top's for you. All right, that's pretty much what top's about. Now let's move on to the jungle. If you guys got any questions, like I said, feel free to ask. We're gonna go ahead and pop this up. Oops, that's not what I wanted to pop up. We'll go ahead and pop this up and we'll change it to jungle. Again, this is just for me. Well, and you guys can know what I'm talking about, but this is also just for me to be able to edit this bad boy. Or not edit, but add timestamps. All right. So, as far as jungle goes, jungles can be pretty much everything. We're just gonna put everything. They could be the whole mixing pot. They can be range, they can be tanks, they can be fighters, they can be bruisers, they could be mages, they could be anything. Anything at all, jungle can be. It's such a diverse role. Now, what is your job as a jungler? As a jungler, my job is to influence, oops, I spelled that right. Influence the early game as much as possible. There's a lot of ways you can go about influencing the early game, but let's go ahead and break it down. Break it down, break it down. All right. So let's just say both junglers are starting top or are starting bot. And put everybody back in their respective lanes. La 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 la. All right. So the thing about jungle, especially if you plan to, get to a high elo with this role, you have to know pretty much how matchups play out. And that's the hardest part. And that's why people get coaching. Because stuff is hard. So if you guys would like coaching, CoachBreaker.com, look, I'm just plugging. But this is why, a lot of the times people have issues with this specific role. All the other roles, not too bad. Not too bad. But when people play jungle, as much as they say, jungle is easy. All you do in jungle is this, that, and the other. It's honestly not that easy. Because your role is the only role that's kind of influenced by all four roles. Well, I guess 5 if you count the enemy team. So that's 9 players that's influencing your role. Whereas usually if you're a laner, the only one influencing your role is a jungler. More often than not. Unless you're in high elo, then people start roaming all over the map and it's chaos. So I'm just going to add some random champs here. So that way we can just kind of learn these matchups here. I'm not talking about like all matchups or anything like that. I'm just throwing out some random champions. So that way you can kind of give some idea. We'll just do Misfortune. What's another one? We'll just Lulu? People don't usually play that combo. We'll do Thresh. Easy clap. Bam. All right. Junglers don't matter. I'm not gonna put a specific jungler in there because it does not matter. That's a whole another story in itself. That's jungle matchups. We don't care about that. The main thing that we care about is how lanes play out, because that's our job. Our job as a jungler is to influence laners, so that way we can either tip them into a scale of winning, or we can prevent them from falling too far behind. Because sometimes some matchups, generally, they can't win. It is what it is. Some champs don't beat other champs. And with that in mind, as a jungler, you don't want to say, my teams always feed, they always suck. Look. If someone goes 0-10, that's a different story. But if someone's 0-2 or something like that, and it's a lane that's extremely hard to play, you can't really be mad at them. You can either prevent that from happening by being there when they choose to go in, or just kind of suck it up, carry them later. Either or. So, as a jungler, when we look at all these lanes, we got to think about some things, right? First off is top, and we just discussed this. What type of top laners are those? Well, those are the fighter, the bruiser kind. Okay, well, what a fighter and bruiser champions usually like to do? Well, they like to fight a lot. That's what they like to do. They like to kill people. Oh, that's a good one. Okay, so that's a lane that's probably going to be fighting all the time. As a jungler, can you influence them? Yeah, if they're always fighting, I can just pop up there and kill them. I helped. Good. Now, as far as mid lane goes, you have Ahri and Fizz, right? And now we didn't discuss mid lane or the other roles, but, stay with me. You have a ranged versus an assassin. Melee fighter. And when we think about this, if that's an assassin and that's a mage, a ranged mage, which one can probably kill them a lot easier? What do assassins excel at? One-shotting people, right? Well, what do mages excel at? You can kind of say, oh, they like the one-shot too. Not really. They need to be fed to get to that point. Generally, they like to poke. Mages like to poke, they like to get you low, they like to pick you off and hit you with a CC, but they don't really look to one-shot you. That's not really how mages work in this game unless they're extremely fed. Even stuff like Syndra, if you're not fed, your R is not going to explode somebody, as much as it might say. You got to get them low first, and then you finish them off. Assassins, on the other hand, they're very good at getting you from 100 to 0. So as a jungler, if I know that champion does that, what can I do? Prevent it. Now, as an assassin, he's probably not going to be able to one-shot pre-6, right? Most champions come online at 6. Now, every champion in this game has a specific power spike per level. Some champs come online at 6. Some champs come online at 4. I think Vladimir is a type of champ that comes online at 9. Udyr, I think, as well. There's certain champs that come online a little bit later. Kayle comes online at 11 and 16. People think it's just 16. It's 11. Kassadin, they say it's 16 when he really comes online, but the champ can do other things. But, you know, generally Kassadin is really, really strong at 16. Some champs work like that. And so as a jungler, you do have to keep that in mind, not just for the enemy team, but for your team as well. If I know I have an Azir, for an example, and that champ doesn't come online until a certain level, then I know I can't fight with that guy until that level. Same thing for me. If my champion is Nocturne, for example, I don't usually come online until 6. So I'm going to try not to fight as much as possible until 6. Fiddlesticks is the same way. Understanding these power spikes is very, very big as a jungler because you know when your things are going to be successful versus when they're going to fail. Now, back to this whole scenario of an assassin versus this little mage here. She's probably not going to die unless, 1, she's low. Assassins are very good at killing you when you're low. Or when he's 6. So this isn't a lane, if I'm blue, this isn't a lane that I really just want to gank. It's more of a lane that I want to prevent from being, you know, killed. So this is, I'm monitoring, I'm watching as I clear, I'm watching. If she's low, help her get out of lane, or just wait for him to go all in and then kill him when he goes all in. That's what makes a good jungler. Those are the only 2 instances you'll be able to kill him. Now, if I'm red side, same thing. We know the matchup is the exact same. It's just my job as a red guy is to do it differently. I want you to get fed. I want you to kill this champion. So in my mind, if I can just go there and sit her down for a second, Fizz will be able to one-shot. We can get this guy fed, and I don't have to do anything else because he will one-shot her every single time. And then again, we can even make this a little bit more complicated. As blue guy, I know that red guy wants to get Fizz fed. So that means I need to be there to do something called counter gank, right? And so we can add that in there. So what is a counter gank? A counter gank, I can't even spell. A counter gank is when a jungler comes to gank a lane after the other jungler comes. Now, you could say a counter gank is to prevent the gank from happening, because sometimes all you have to do is walk into the lane. You can say, well, we're here to 2v2 because, our champs do want a 2v2. You can say we're here to just clean up the kill. There's a lot of ways a counter gank actually can work, but we just clump it all together and call it a counter gank, even though a lot of other things can happen within that counter gank. So that's pretty crazy, ain't it? You got 3 types of things, and it can even get more complicated than that. Jungle is ridiculous, but you don't really see that until you get to high elo. A lot of the times you'll see it, especially in normal play, is I'm just a jungler that will take my camps and I'll just go into a lane and try to kill them. But the fact of the matter, jungle can get so in depth, the better jungler typically has an easier time winning if the game goes as planned. We know League of Legends, this game ain't never going as planned, but you get what I'm trying to say. So, now that we discussed the mid lane there, what they're trying to do, now we gotta look at the bot lane. Right, and now we're gonna say this isn't technically a, this isn't a bot type of thing here in terms of what is what I'm looking for? This isn't a bot discussion, but as a jungler, I feel like this would help you out tremendously. So, well, probably mid lane too, because y'all like to roam a lot and get on people's nerves. So what we want to talk about is that bot lane has 3 types of lanes. So there are 3 types of bot lanes. We have poke, and poke beats kill. And then you also have kill beating sustain. And then you also have sustain, beat, and poke. It's pretty much how the lanes go. So poke pretty much is exactly what it sounds like. You know, I'm poking them down, I'm poking them, you know, I'm getting them really, really low, so either they back or they die. Kill lane is I want to kill you. I mean, that's self-explanatory. Then you got the sustain lane, which is like, well, I'm just going to keep healing him up, and pretty much that's it. Now, some of these roles are, or some of these, I guess you can call them roles, are interchangeable. For example, Ashe and Soraka, they are a sustain lane, but they can poke. See what I'm trying to say? So it's not all cut and dry. This is just training wheels. So when we discuss this and we look at this bot lane here, a lot of this could be dictated based off the support. Thresh, he could poke, true, but if he lands a hook, you're probably gonna die. Oh, okay, so it's a kill lane. Bot lane has Soraka. That champ likes to heal. Oh, okay, it's a sustain lane. According to this algorithm here, kill beats sustain. Now, why does poke beat kill? Because the poke lane, in theory, this isn't cut and dry. Sometimes they lose. In theory, the poke lane will get them low to where if they do fly in, they're probably going to die. They don't have enough HP to actually kill them. Kill beats sustain because you can't really heal up a lot of burst, right? If I hook you, as let's say Blitzcrank, and I knock you up, Soraka can't heal the burst that's about to come. It's just impossible. Especially early, I mean. And then as far as poke, sustain beats poke, well, if you try to get me low, I'll just heal. Oh, you hit me, heal. Oh, you hit me, heal. It's going to be a boring lane. That is pretty much the cookie cutter way of thinking how bot lane is going to work. So let's go back to jungle. I'm blue guy. Okay, well, my lane's sustaining, which means that they generally just, you know, don't want to die. They're just going to chill, sustain, poke, whatever. It's pretty much what they want to do. We have Thresh, though. And Thresh is going to like to try to all in my bot lane. And according to this little thing, kill beats sustain. So that might be a lane I have to go down to, because if I don't go down to them, they're going to lose anyway. Okay, but then top lane is also going to be fighting all the time. Plus mid lane's also going to be able to die. Dang, who do I gank now? It's complicated. Red guy's like, well, my bot lane's going to win. I'm out. Deuces, I ward for you, but I'm playing topside. So all of a sudden, the red guy got less problems to worry about, where the blue guy has more problems to worry about, right? That's why jungle's complicated, right? That's the problem with jungle, is that when you have these types of matchups, you really do have to understand the matchups. You have to understand when you can do something, when you can't do something, right? And now as a jungler, the thing that we also want to think about too, to help determine what we're going to play to, is who is going to carry this game. Could be you. If you're playing, well, I'll just say which lane, not who. So which lane is going to carry this game? It could be you, right? It could be you in terms of, like maybe you're playing, I don't know, Kha'Zix, right? Just getting some kills on you, you'll become the carry. But if you're playing something like Sejuani, or another champ that tends to fall off a little bit later, you're gonna have to rely on who's ever fed, right? So if I'm blue guy and I'm like, who's gonna carry me? A way to think about it is I always tell my students, put 20 kills on one of these champions. 20 kills on Aatrox, that dude will stomp. 20 kills on Ahri, she kind of still does what Ahri does. 20 kills on Ashe, she kind of still does what Ashe does. What does that mean? We are playing to topside. We will try to help bot when we can, but we're spending most of our time topside. And what do we call this? We call this the 80-20 rule, right? Where you spend 80% of your time topside or on one side, and then 20% of your time on the other. Why do we do this? Because as a jungler, you can't be everywhere at one time. It's impossible. A lot of people will be like, gank me, gank me, gank me. Mute those pings, mute those players. You can't be everywhere. You're one player to 3 lanes. This is just math, don't work like that. So you're gonna have to neglect a side to be able to play to 2, at least, right? So when you figure out which lane is gonna carry you, you play to that. As far as, you know, red guy, which lane is probably gonna carry me, it's probably gonna be my bot side. Why? Because we could play the Fizz and get this dude snowballing, and he'll just like stomp everybody. Plus, Misfortune and Thresh are very, very good at carrying as well. So now you got red guy playing bot side, and you got blue guy playing top side. Right? 80-20, 80-20. Now this basically means that red side's probably going to be winning, and then blue side's probably going to be winning up top. which means that all the Rift Heralds should in theory be yours, and all the dragons should in theory be theirs. Now, this is just a cookie cutter thing. It's not always like this, but generally if one jungler is playing to one side and the other jungler is playing to the other side, they're pretty much saying, I give up on that side, do whatever, right? And then you play to your objectives mid to late game, once laning phase ends. As a jungler, your job is to influence the lane and then break open whatever tower you can as fast as possible. Whether it be get the Rift Herald and do it, whether it be I gank and take some plates, whatever. Your job is to open up the map. Get a lane ahead, open up the map, let this game start kind of unraveling itself. That's your job as a jungler, okay? So, I don't want to go too in-depth with it because we could talk about jungle for a long time because that role is nutty. All right, let's go ahead and head to mid lane here. Like I said, if anybody got any questions, please feel free to ask them, and I'll do my best to answer them. As I said, let's try to keep it to the topic we're talking about. At the end, we'll be able to revisit some of these roles, okay? All right, so mid lane. Usually, you're typically dealing with assassins. Holy, can I type? Or mages. We're going to go more in depth tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow, but, next class. I don't know when that class will be. Let me know if you guys like this. Hit me with a thumbs up if you do. We'll go more in depth about what type of champions are. But we got assassins and we got mages. That's pretty much what. Sorry. That's pretty much what we're going to be talking about. Is assassin and mages. There's nothing really else that can go mid. I mean, I guess you can say range champions, but let's be real. The typical thing is assassin and mages. So let's just zoom in on here a bit. What is your job as a mid laner? Well, my job as a mid laner is to help influence the game as much as possible by either roaming or rotating. My job as a mid lane is also, well, we'll save that. So pretty much what we mean by roaming or rotating. So roaming is a bit different from rotating. So let's go ahead and zoom this in a little bit more. Let's just say we got minions here, and Ahri's like, well, I want to go roam. And then she just walks off. I don't know. That's not what a roam is. A roam basically means that I set myself up with the wave shoving into my laner. So that way I can go ahead and just go about my business. That's what a roam is. Rotating is what we just talked about. Rotating is where maybe the lanes are like this and the Ahri is like, well, oh crap, you need help over here, jungler? Here I come. That's rotating. You drop everything and you go. Every role does this. Just in case they're needed, they just go. A lot of times in lower elo, players tend to not care. Especially because I don't know if it's like coaches saying this. I don't know if it's guides saying this, videos, whatever. But there's a lot of people in low elo that don't move. They typically just sit in lane. And I'm going to assume it's an ego thing. Wait, NA got some ego. Look, I'm just saying. I'm pretty sure it's an ego thing where it's like, don't rotate for plays because plays are often bad and you're going to put yourself behind, which is a horrible reason not to rotate. But I'm pretty sure it's kind of along the lines of that. You need to rotate, okay? You're never going to learn what rotations you need to go to if you never rotate. I promise you, as a mid laner, if you rotate, you're going to get free kills and you're just going to carry the game. I promise you. You just got to do it. So, how do you choose when to roam, though? So, choosing when to roam is based off turns. Basically, after you shove your wave, you have a turn to do something. So, when we talk about turns, basically what this means is you have a turn to go do something, whatever it may be. So let's just say, well, I shoved him in. He's under tower now. I can recall if I want, buy my items. By the time I get back, the wave should be back to where it's in the middle or pushed into me, and I don't really lose that much CS because he's going to be too busy clearing the wave. Another thing you could do is, well, I push you and I'm going to go ward. Maybe I put a ward here, right, in that bush. Like that. Maybe I put a ward, a pink ward in this bush. Like that, right? Maybe I do that. Now I got vision. Whatever it may be. Maybe I go roam. And then I go get a kill top. Maybe I roam in the jungle with my jungler. Whatever. When you set yourself up for that, you take a turn. Once that turn is over, you return back to lane. So if you did go to ward, you come back to lane. If you did go to invade, you come back to lane. If you did go to roam to top lane, you come back to lane. You want to do your best to not go do something and then recall and then come back. It's not enough time. I promise you, it's not enough time. You'll miss some CS. What you want to do is you want to go do whatever you need to do and come back to lane. Okay? That's what a turn is. So if you're using your turns efficiently as a mid laner, you'll realize how much of a lead you get. Low elo players, I mean, even in Diamond. If you guys didn't know, I have an account for each role and I climb them all. And playing Azir is one of my, well, probably my only champion that I play mid. Why? Look, I wanted to torture myself to climb with Azir. Hey. But when I'm filled mid on my main account, I'm able to play Azir in Diamond and play based off this concept to be okay. Now, obviously that's not my main champion or my main role, quote unquote. But I know what I'm supposed to do, right? And the reason why I climb these accounts is so that I know what works, what doesn't work, and I can kind of int my game so you guys don't got to, right? So you guys don't have to int your games. I do it for you. Look, you're welcome. So this type of thing works no matter what elo you're in. You do need to take your turn, and you do need to return back to lane. That's why, look, turn, return. Look, it works. Because if you don't, you'll lose CS, the might get a lead, you might, whatever. If you're low, you got it back, whatever, right? If you go in bed and it goes sour, you're low, you gotta recall. Don't come back to lane 10 HP and die, okay? So playing off turns is something that you always want to do as a mid laner, no matter what you do, because it's that important. I'm pretty sure that's pretty short. That's pretty short. Honestly, as a mid laner, you don't even have to do anything. That sounds bad. But you don't actually have to fight as much as the top laner does. A lot of your ability to carry comes off of just leaving lane or farming a ton. There's champions like control mages that typically farm. And like I said, we'll talk more about those type of champions like hyper carries and snowballers and things like that. We'll talk more about that in another class. But I'm just saying that you don't really have to kill your opponent as a mid laner to get a lead and then start generating gold for your team. There's a lot more ways to do it. And this is why it's important you take effect of those turns. So mid lane is kind of simple if you think about it, right? There's not really much to it. I mean, there's more to it, don't get me wrong, but there's not. So let's talk about ADC now. ADC, the big kahuna. The one that's always whining about something. All right. So what is your job as ADC? Typically, ADCs are marksmen. I'm not going to say mage because that's a special case. Typically, AD carries are just marksmen. They're ranged champions that do AD damage. Some do true, some do AP, some do mixed, whatever. But for the most part, they're ranged. They're just marksmen. That's what Riot considers them. They're just marksmen. So what are your job as an AD carry? Can I scroll this down? I can't. Oh, let me go ahead and change this too. I'm over here trolling. All right. So what is your job? How long have we been streaming? Oh, it's only been an hour. Look, we're actually doing good on time. Like really good on time. Okay. So what is the job of an AD carry? The job of an ADC is to make it to mid/late game with their core items to destroy team fights. Your main goal, no matter what ADC you are, you want farm to then play team fights. And fun fact, if the game goes long enough, it literally comes down to better ADC wins. Y'all might think it's a joke, right? And players that say better jungler wins, you know, typically if the game's over in like 15 minutes. Sometimes that is the case if a jungler is that good, but usually that ain't the case as much anymore since Riot's changed that role. But when people say better AD wins and it's like 30 minutes into the game, it's true. It literally comes down to which ADC just performs better in team fights. And so when players tell you that CSing is a major thing of an AD carry, it's true because you don't care about the early game. If that game goes long enough to where you can start team fighting and you're good and you got your items and the other one might not, the ADC might not, you just automatically win. You literally just destroy team fights. It's that simple. So as an AD carry, your job is to win team fights. It's really simple. Really simple. And that doesn't mean it's easy because team fights are very, very hard for AD carries. Why? Because damn near everything blows you up. Like, let's be real. Everything kind of one-shots you. So shield bow kind of helps, but it ain't that healthy. But everything kind of hits you with a one bang and you're kind of dead. So how do you remedy this? Well, you remedy this by your positioning. So let's go ahead and just kind of, I don't know, let's just say we're fighting for drag. Whatever. It doesn't really matter the jungler. Maybe it does. Maybe I should put a jungler in now. Whatever. We're all huddling for dragon. Well, our jungler will be, let's just say Nunu. F it. We pop Nunu in there. And then we'll say Amumu. That's a nasty combination. Good God. I wish people actually drafted like this in my games. Okay. So right now, look at where we are as Ashe versus look at where we are as Misfortune. Right? Within this scenario here, who's in more danger? Is it the Misfortune? Or is it the Ashe? If we think about it, which champions can kill Misfortune right now? Nunu. But Nunu is not really a champ that can one-shot you. And in order for that to happen, he's got to get through 2 champions. Right? Ashe can ult, but after that, there's not really going to be any follow-up. Right? Ahri and Aatrox are way too far to even touch Misfortune. So if a fight breaks out, they all go right here. Misfortune just press R. GG. Now, when it comes to Ashe, Kled can ult her. Fizz can go on her. Amumu can go on her. So who's in the better position? It's Misfortune. So how can we remedy a situation like this? As an ADC, especially dealing with assassins, it's okay to not pop out. A lot of the times assassins will tunnel you, but if they don't see you, they can't tunnel you. So let's just say this starts happening, right? Your Raka starts going, boom. They start clumping in, whatever. As Fizz and Kled, and I don't see Ashe. In the moment, am I really going to focus on where's Ashe? Go for Ashe. Or am I going to just focus on whoever is right in front of me? They're going to focus on who's ever in front. Once they expend their abilities, like Fizz ult, then you can just pop out and start doing your work. That's how you carry team fights. Although, you know, she's still in a better position than you are. Don't get me wrong. It's a lot easier for you to play this team fight. And once you start killing people, once they start clumping in like that, and, you know, this type of stuff starts happening. You're right here. Now, who's in the better position? Right? Well, Aatrox and Ahri could technically just ignore Fizz and go straight for Misfortune. Will they? Probably not. But what happens if you kill them? Because there's 4 of you guys on 2 champions. Okay, now that I positioned well, we kill this guy. We kill this guy. These guys are out of the fight, right? Now look. Now who played the fight better? Ashe did. And now Misfortune has to try to play the hell out of this fight, which he probably won't. And we win the fight because Ashe was smart enough to not walk out until Fizz and Kled showed up before she gets blasted. A lot of the times ADCs think, well, I can't really do much if I'm one-shot all the time. I can't really do anything if I'm one-shot all the time. You can't. It's true. So how can you prevent that? Just don't be there. Right? Us being in this bush waiting for Fizz and Kled to go in before we pop out makes it so that I don't get one-shot. But if, let's say, Nunu rolls in, and I'm with my support, and they're way over there, and then Fizz just, oh, it's lunchtime, bam, you're dead. Well, how am I supposed to prevent that? It's unfair. I can't do anything. Don't be there. Because who eats at lunchtime? It's going to be Soraka, Ahri, or Aatrox. You come out, job done. That's how you win as AD carry. It's all about positioning, and it's all about playing team fights well. You got to make sure you get that C. You got to make sure you get the CS to get your items. Once you get your items, you can kill everybody. So that's how ADC works. It's very simple. But they just have to be a lot more aware than all the other roles, and you have to play it right. I guess the other job as ADC is to just kind of do damage to objectives, but again, it's kind of self-explanatory. You just go when your team goes. Not really much. Take towers. You just go when your team goes. But for the most part, ADC is that simple. Get my farm to get my items to play team fights. Farm items, team fights. Farm item, team fights. FIT. Fit. Oh, that's actually pretty good. Don't copyright. Fit. ADC's got to stay fit. Farm items and team fights. In order to win as ADC, you got to stay fit. What? Farm item, team fight. Look, say it with me. Farm item, team fight. That's how you win as ADC. Hands down. Like I said, there's a little bit more to these roles than just what I've been explaining here. But as I said, this is just going over the basic rundown of what their jobs are and typically what you see them do, what champs go there and whatnot. Now, last but not least, we're talking about support here. So let's go ahead and open that up. I'm going to type support. All right. Boop. All right. So when we're dealing with support, what is a support's job? Well, let's just say what type of champs go there. So the types of champs that go to support is going to be mages, marksman, unfortunately. Oh wait, I just realized you guys can't even see. Let me move myself. Over here, better, maybe. Marksman. I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, enchanters. And then like tanks. Pretty much engagers are tanks. I'm not gonna write engage, I'm just gonna write tanks. So that's pretty much what you see when you're playing ADC. All right, so, I mean not ADC, I'm sorry, when you're playing support. So what is my job as support? So, don't forget Pyke. Well, yeah, he's considered a, oh, dang, you're right. Shoot. Assassin? He's a special case. Look, we'll just say Pyke. I ain't know the champ like that. What you said? Well, look, we'll give this guy his own category because there ain't no other assassin supports. So Pyke. What is your job as a support? The overall job as a support is to protect the AD carry. Now that is the overall job. Now I'm not saying the support is just the AD carries like bodyguard. That's not how it works. The support supports the team, but I'd be lying to you if I just said, oh, the support's job is not to protect the AD carry. It is, unless your AD carry sucks. Different story, different time. But if the game goes well, that's your job. So, the job of support is to protect your ADC. That's job number one, right? We could just add protect your ADC, support your team, ward down for vision. You can even call objectives if you would like. You know, try to get your jungler to do some stuff. Sometimes it can be to initiate fights, right? But again, that's kind of champ specific, and so I don't really want to talk about that right now because there's a lot of in-depthness to that. So I don't want to talk about that right now. Rengar, if you about that, like, okay. All right, now you're just troll. Now you're just troll. And I had to play Rengar support once. I'm not gonna lie. All right, so your job as a support is do what I just said. So let's just say, you know, we know what our job of our carry is, right? Our job of our carry is to just kind of get that farm. Well, you gotta do your best to make it so that they can get that farm, right? Your job as a support is to enable whatever champion you're helping to do what they do best, right? So if I'm like playing with Misfortune, well, I'm trying to set up ults for her, plus Protector, obviously. If I'm playing with a Mumu, well, maybe I'll try to hook for him, and then he can go engage. Maybe Fizz is the same way, Clad. Maybe I can toss my Lantern to get him out. As far as Soraka goes for like Ahri, Nunu, or Aatrox, whatever, my job is to prevent the burst from Fizz, because he's an assassin. So, or I can silence him when he comes in so he can't use any abilities. Whatever it may be, right? You can protect people in a lot of different ways. You can engage fights in a lot of different ways. You can do your job in a lot of different ways. But for the most part, it comes down to I'm trying to protect my team. I'm trying to support my team. And I want to get vision down for my team. That's pretty much the basics of support. If you do that properly, you pretty much got it down pat. Not saying it's easy, but I'm just saying, like, down to the basics, the nitty gritty. If you play support in that fashion, where I'm just making sure my ADC doesn't die, I'm making sure that my teammates are okay, and I'm making sure that I got things awarded, you'll probably be a really, really successful support just doing those basic things. So, as a support, typically, if you want to go ward, you don't want to ward unless you shove up first. So, do not go ward unless you shove up. That way, if you do shove up, and they're like that, and you go to ward, you guys can easily 2v2 the jungler if he happens to be in that bush, right? They can't come this way because the wave is so big, and they most likely have to go this way if they want to do anything. By that time, you guys can just leave, right? No jungler should be able to straight up kill you unless they're turbo fed, and that barely happens. So you should be good to go for like the first 15 minutes before you have to worry about being 2v1 by the jungler. Another thing is I want to talk about roam timers. So roam timing as support. So a lot of players tend to have this issue where they have a hard time roaming. And for this instance, we're going to go ahead and use Thresh, because Thresh is very, very easy to roam with compared to Soraka. Not saying Soraka can't roam, but you know what I'm saying. It's just easy to do with him. So what exactly is a roam? And we explained this with mid before, right? A roam is typically something you do when your lane is pretty much set up to where you don't have to be in there anymore. It's set up, I can go do whatever, and my lane is not going to suffer. Pretty much that's what roaming is. As a support, you have a couple of windows, but the window that I always tell players to do is if you die or recall, walk down mid lane. Because this gives you options. Is top gankable? No. Okay. Like Aatrox is way under tower. He doesn't really need me. Whatever. I'm not needed top. Are you needed mid? Well, it looks like I already just recalled, so I'm not needed there. Am I needed bot? Well, obviously, you're gonna go back. It doesn't matter. Now, this allows for two things to happen. When you do this, it allows for you not to only be able to get like successful roams off and go back bot, but this also allows you to ward. Typically, what you would do as a support, and I'll see this a lot, is they'll do this. They'll go back to lane, and whether they go this way or this way, then they just start like going to go scan and ward and stuff. So essentially the path that you're taking, if your red side is this, something like that. If your blue side, the path you're taking is something like this. Maybe like that. Maybe like that. Something weird like that. But you can be way more efficient and cost less time by doing something like this. Walking down middle. Nobody needs me. I can go ahead and ward that. Come down, scan in, whatever. Scan, scan, scan. Maybe they're shoved too much. Come back this way. Look how much less walking that was. Plus, you actually killed two birds in one stone just in case you're needed here, or top side, you're close enough to react. Same thing with bottom, right? If I'm going mid and like, oh, you don't really need me, whatever. I'm just going to go down here. And I'm going to go ward. Then I can probably shoot back, maybe ward back there, scan back there, come back, and we're back in lane. See the difference? It's way less walking, and it's much more efficient because if you're needed elsewhere, you're capable. Oh, you're fighting right now as I was warding. Here I come. That easy, right? Super, super easy. So this is why we choose to walk here and then go do whatever we need to do. If it's warding, whatever, we're not needed, we'll go back to lane. Because it's a lot less walking and it's a lot more efficient than, once again, doing this, coming back, looping back, coming back, going back there. And the same thing for this one, which is this. Maybe you loop up to go check that. Maybe you come back here. Maybe you loop back. Maybe you go all the way around in a circle, and then you come back. Who knows? Whatever your pathing may be. I've seen it all. That's pretty much what you want to do. Okay, so it's roam timing and support. Sadly guilty of this, even though I learned it a while ago. It's something that's hard to keep in mind when you die or when you recall. But I promise you that, you know, once you guys start incorporating that type of stuff, you'll be successful, not just with support, but with all roles. So if you guys are interested in this document, like I said, I will have it linked in the description below. You guys can have this document for yourself. I might clean it up a little bit before I post it, because it was kind of like idea jotting, not really like handing it over. So I might clean it up just a little bit, make a little bit more sense, and then I'll put it in the description of this video. But this concludes class number 1. Do anybody have any questions before we conclude this class? We laid it out pretty good time. We had a pretty good time. It could be questions about any role. We'll go ahead and just type outro, or we could just say questions if there is any. Oops. Feel free to ask any. If there's no questions today, we can have questions tomorrow. Don't feel pressured. Any questions, any questions? We'll give it a couple of minutes here. And we can, actually, I could probably just edit this while we have questions going on. If you guys got any. That one's written pretty well. You got nothing? All right, all right. Also, for people, like I said before, if you guys are interested in coaching, coachbucket.com is where you want to go. There is a discount right now for first-time students, so make sure you take advantage of that before it is gone. I don't know when we'll have the next class. Maybe we can have it one every week, or maybe one every few days, or I don't know. Maybe it'll just be random. I'll let you guys know, like with like ats from my Discord. If you guys haven't joined, please feel free. I'll let you guys know with YouTube posts. You guys would know before I did it, but I don't know if I'm gonna have it timed. But it might just substitute my streams. So my streams are usually 12 p.m. Central, so this would substitute my stream and it'd be over here instead of on Twitch. So that's how that would go. All right. This is a pretty good class. I actually like this. I actually like this a lot. All right, as I said, this will be in the description below if you guys would like to have this as your personal notes, you know, and you just want to try to improve on your own. If you guys have my Discord, you guys can at me whenever you guys have any questions in the League Advice channel, and I'll go ahead and do that. Like I said, I might actually put these notes in my Discord, and then you guys can just kind of look at them there. That might be better. So, yeah. But anywho, thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate it. Thank you guys for you know, just supporting. I love it. I love it. If you guys would like to help support the content, like the law class, Patreon below is where you want to go. Again, thank you Patreons. You allowed stuff like this to happen. So pretty dope, pretty dope. Like I said, CoachBlaker.com if you want to do coaching. And make sure you join my Discord if you got any questions. Peace, peace. Late. Have a good rest of your day or night whenever you're watching this. As I said, timestamps are below. Have a good rest of your day or night.